what EVs are you going to be able to buy in 2020? So 2020 is going to be a hell of a year for electric vehicles. There are some amazing ones coming out, and even more tantalizingly, 2021 is going to be probably even better. For 2020, I think the manufacturers are going to get into their stride a little bit. They're going to hopefully secure enough battery supply to make a good number of EVs for us all to get. So I've tried to just include the cars that I think will actually be produced and into customers' hands in 2020. It's going to be a bumper year for EVs for one big reason. There are very, very strict EU emission laws coming in, and that's going to be the reason I think that a lot of manufacturers are going to really have to get their act together and produce enough EVs for us all. On top of that, there's also, in England anyway, or in the UK, there's 0% benefit in kind tax, which means that if you get a company car, you don't have to pay anything for it. Like, you don't have to pay anything out of your personal tax. At the moment you do. It's going to be 0% next year, and that's going to make a hell of a difference. The main beneficiary, I think, is probably going to be Tesla. But anyway, so let's get cracking. So here's the first lucky 13. Hold on to your hats. Number 1, the Porsche Taycan. So 2020 starts off with a bang. Well, not really a bang, more of a... The Taycan is, it's a beautiful car, I think. What I love about the Taycan, it's fast, charges faster than anything else. Yeah, it looks damn special. But it's also important that it's another luxury car manufacturer that's making an EV. And that means the whole industry's got to take it seriously if they're not already. Jaguar arguably was the first non-Tesla anyway to come out that was special enough that everyone thought, oh yeah, that's nice. So why are Porsche doing the Taycan? Probably because Tesla's starting to eat away a little bit of their market share. But I think it's more just that everyone knows that's where the market is going, and you'd have to be a real idiot not to. So it doesn't really matter who gets there first. It doesn't matter if Tesla got there first. It just, who cares? The fact of the matter is, it's just important that we're all going in the same direction. The Taycan is not a Tesla killer, but it's an internal combustion engine killer. Any Porsche customer, traditional Porsche customer that sees the Taycan is going to say, ooh, maybe I'll get one of them. And that's important. It's important that people with money buy these luxury cars because it means we all benefit. Production goes up, prices go down, competition intensifies, infrastructure improves as well. So anyway, it's almost pointless talking about the specs at this point. If you have £135,000 in your pocket and you want to buy one, why not? Also, it's amazing. It charges in 21 minutes to 80%. At 270 kilowatts. That's like crazy. And that's a glimpse of the future. So there it is. Number 1, Porsche Taycan. Number 2 is the Zoe. I know 5 people with Zoes, and they love them. It's a great little car. And the new one coming out in January is going to sell like hotcakes. Not least because Renault actually seem to be able to produce enough of them. They seem to be able to cope with demand for batteries. So if only we could say the same about Kia. So the new one gets 242 miles on the WLTP test cycle. For anyone that doesn't know much about EVs, you've got the WLTP test cycle. Kind of tells you how many miles you can expect to get, and it's a bit on the high side, really. Take 10% off that, and then you've got a sort of realistic figure. Take even more if you're going on a motorway, but anyway. So yeah, the new one gets 242 miles. CCS fast charging, that's a big deal. The old one didn't have that. Although you've got to pay £750 extra in the higher 2 specifications to get CCS. Well, that's madness. If you're going to buy one, you got to just spend that money. It's just silly not to. It'll kill the resale value otherwise. And it still manages to charge at 22 kilowatts on AC, which is pretty damn fantastic. The Zoe's a bit of a weird one for that because most cars, they don't charge that fast on AC. If you roll up to a charger and plug it in on the Type 2 connector and not CCS, you'll be thinking, well, God, this is taking a long time. And it's because that's AC and CCS is DC. And to be honest, I didn't know about all this sort of stuff until recently. So anyway, I'm going to do a video all about charging at some point, to kind of pass on the knowledge that I've gained from many experiences of slow charging and not realizing why. So anyway, it's got a great app. It's got a lovely recycled interior, which is brilliant since you'll be an automatic eco warrior the moment you step inside an EV. And it's still got the battery lease, which a lot of people complain about, but I think it's brilliant because it brings the sticker price down by £7,000, which is brilliant. Then you just pay £50 a month for the lease of the battery. And of course, if anything goes wrong with the battery, then they obviously replace it. So for all the cars coming in 2020, you could argue this is going to be the most special, because it's got a really good range for a really good price. But let's see if there's another one that's coming up that might be even better. Lucky folks will be driving these around in January. Next up, we have the DS3 Crossback E-Tense. Why the stupid names? I mean, really. What'd you drive? I drive a Model 3. Nice. What'd you drive? Jaguar I-Pace. Nice. What'd you drive? I have a DS3 Crossback E-Tense. Do you like diamonds? Well, yes, of course. Here you go then. Have diamonds. Have all the diamonds. Diamonds everywhere. Look at that interior. Oh my God. It's a festival of angles. I'm not a fan of the interior at all. In fact, I think it's bloody awful, but maybe that's just me. I'm sure it would be a lovely car, but it's £32,350 for 199 miles. So I think that's a bit on the high side. Still, it makes a statement, although it does look like the designer spent too long in Monte Carlo. Nice from the outside, though, and certainly more striking than an e-Niro. So I like it. The diamonds in the inside would drive me absolutely mad, though. The Skoda Citigo e-iV, the VW e-up, and the Seat Me Electric. Those names, my God, it makes you wonder how much cocaine the marketing departments ingest before they come up with the names like this. 3 cars, all with bloody awful names, and they all are exactly the same, effectively, just slightly different shapes on the outside. They all share the VW e-up chassis and drivetrain. So the pricing hasn't been confirmed yet for the Skoda or the Volkswagen, but it looks like the Skoda is going to be 19,000, the VW is going to be 20,000, and the Seat will be 19,300. That makes them all fantastic value. They're all practically the same other than that. There's small differences with the range on each one, but really it doesn't really make a difference. So whichever one of these you would want, you're going to get a fantastic car. A maximum of 40 kilowatt charging, though, means that it'll take 1 hour on a rapid charge to get up to 80%, which is really disappointing, especially when you consider the Honda E has a worse range and manages 80% in 31 minutes. But this is £10,000 cheaper. £10,000 cheaper. It's also disappointing, actually, with the charge taking so long on a rapid charge, that actually a lot of rapid chargers now are beginning to have 45-minute limits. So one person isn't hogging it for too long. That's not so good. But yes, stupid name, but an absolute bargain anyway. In fact, it's so cheap, I reckon Volkswagen will start giving them away with packets of cornflakes. Or at least they'll start giving them away as part of the class action lawsuit settlement. Now let's talk about a car with a far more sensible name. The Peugeot E208, which, based on what I saw, is a cracking car. I saw this at Fully Charged Live, so I had a chance to get inside and toggle the switches, which are beautifully tactile. In fact, I was thinking that at the time. So most EVs at the moment, they have kind of tacky interiors, the ones that I've seen. My Niro is, the buttons are pretty tacky, same with the Kona. Anyway, so the E208, I found it quite interesting just how nice and tactile it felt, all of the switches, which is consistent with existing Peugeot interiors, I'm told. So anyway, it's just nice to see it in an EV. So cars like this, and the e-Niro, that have multiple drivetrain options, make a lot of sense in many ways. You go to the forecourt, the garage, and you see what they've got available, and they offer you whatever you want. If you want petrol, that's great. If you want diesel, really, or electric, of course. So that's fantastic. The problem is the electric one carries a £5,900 premium. So you've got to hope, really, that the salespeople at Peugeot say, well, but think of all the other benefits. Yes, it's £6,000 extra, but services cost less. There's no car tax. Fuel costs are non-existent. and it doesn't kill the environment, which is quite a good one. They're just generally cheaper to run. So let's hope that's what they say. Generally, they don't say that. In fact, they'll probably try and push customers towards the cheaper diesel model with AdBlue. Have you seen AdBlue? It's an additive that apparently reduces particulates and nitrogen oxides by up to 90%. But you've got to keep it topped up every 3,500 miles, and I guess you have to buy it from Peugeot as well. So it's just a way of one last hurrah for the diesel engine. I suppose it's their way of trying to sell them off. What's nice is they've got a specific GT trim for the EV, which features fancy stuff like a 10-inch screen, blind spot monitoring, lane assist, parking assistance, and that kind of thing. I couldn't see the screen because it wasn't turned on. The car wasn't turned on at Fully Charged Live. But it looked a decent car, and I think it's going to sell really well. The battery's not massive, but you can charge to 80% in 30 minutes, so that sounds good to me. And you can pre-order it right now, and you'll get it in February. Next up, we have the Mercedes-Benz EQA. Their EQ range is the name they give their electric cars. We've already had the EQC, which is the electric version of the C-Class. Coming up later in the year, well, later in 2020, we'll have the EQV, which I'll talk about later. That's their van, the V-Class, and this is their A-Class. Not much has been heard about this since it was shown off as a concept at Frankfurt in 2017, but apparently it's going to be their second EV after the EQC. Now, there's something I really don't like about Mercedes design. Obviously, we know it's all going to be built wonderfully. It'll drive like a dream and everything else. But yeah, the proportions really bother me. It's got curves in all the wrong places. And this is not just their EVs, but their ICE cars as well. I have a kind of similar problem with. But anyway, there's something about it I don't like. It's Las Vegas in car form, I think, a Mercedes-Benz. I mean, the Benz logo, just make this logo smaller, it's far too big, and that grille at the front is just, what the hell? The lights at the back? It was quite funky, actually, the lights at the back, thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of person that I like my EVs to look different. But yeah, I'm not getting it. Still, it's one of those cases where I'm hoping that the production version is more restrained than the concept. Putting my ridiculous opinions aside, it seems like a fantastic car, and what is there not to like about a luxury German car, because they build them pretty well, don't they? So for about £31,000 you get a 60 kilowatt hour battery and 249 mile range, which is not a bad deal, really, given it's Mercedes. Next we have the Mini Electric. Biting at the Honda E's heels is the Mini Electric, which seems like a pretty good city car. I've always liked Minis, who doesn't? And it always seemed like a natural fit for an EV. At £24,400, it's pretty good value. It's the same cost as a top-end Mini Cooper, but it's only got 144 mile range, which is in the Honda E zone of being pretty damn pricey. The Mini is bigger than the Honda, so it's more practical in that respect, and it's built in the UK, of course, and God knows we need all the help we can get right now. But for me, the Honda wins, at least on looks. We'll see when I drive them both. So much of car buying comes down to brand loyalty, and as much as I like Minis, I've never owned one, so I haven't had that emotional connection that people get. So for people that have driven and loved Minis, this is going to be a seriously attractive proposition, and I think they'll sell a lot. I still want the Honda. BMW iX3. Now, I've always been a fan of the BMW X's, so I don't know what there is to say about this really, other than it's going to be an electric version of the X3, which is a pretty cool looking small SUV. They haven't released the final version of this yet, they haven't unveiled it yet, so this is just the concept, but it looks pretty cool, I think. It's not as mad as some of the concepts that BMW have released. Oh god, that grille. This one's fairly restrained. Thing is, I love the i3, I absolutely love it. I smile every time I see one. So it would have been nice if they'd continued that design language, but at a bigger scale. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be an expensive car, though. So if you think the Model Y long range performance should come in around 59,000 with 298 miles of range and all the other Tesla benefits, which would make this seem pretty crap value actually. This is going to be 56,000 with 249 mile range. But it's great to see BMW producing more EVs. The Seat Elborn. It's another mad name, but this is a car that's built on the VW ID3 platform, so it's going to be a really good car and it's going to be a bit cheaper. I think it looks cool. What else is there to say about it? But I think we're going to find that Seat are going to be the sort of the lower end of the EV market. In some ways, it's kind of dull that we're going to have so many cars, all pretty much the same, just with slightly different looking outsides, really. But it's good for all of us. It means we end up with more options and more choice. And as I say, this one looks pretty cool. So next we have the Vauxhall or Opel, depending on where you are, Corsa-e. The Corsa is a really popular car, and I see them all over the place. I've never been particularly excited about Vauxhall's cars, although I remember quite liking the Tigra when I was young. But I just reminded myself of what the Tigra looked like, and I can't believe I liked that kind of thing. I also like the Puma, the street car, and the Audi TT, so I think I was probably destined to become a hairdresser. Anyway, if you go to the Vauxhall or Opel showroom, they'll sell you a Corsa-e for £4,100 more than the top spec ICE model, and you'll get, what will you get? You'll get a familiar small car with all the electric goodness. And here's a video of it driving around an attractive industrial estate unit. Fully Charged, I've made a video about it, so check out that. Although I would say if you are shopping around for an EV, I think the Zoe is much better value for money. And probably a better car. But who knows? Until I drive it, who knows? So here we have the big one, the VW ID3. So firstly, one of my pet peeves is people adding gate to the end of anything when it's a scandal. It just makes no sense to me. And yes, I know it's because of bloody Watergate, all those years ago, but really, every damn scandal has to have gate at the end of it. So you know where I'm going with this. Dieselgate, or the diesel scandal, or lying bastards, if you want to call them that. So VW were caught red-handed, lying to everyone about how good their diesels were, and just cheating on their emissions. They've produced so many press releases over the years about various concept cars. I've just called them vaporware instead of Volkswagen. Every week there seems to be a different press release. So anyway, now at least finally they've released the ID3, so that's gotten a bit better. At least we can actually see it. So their atonement has come in the form of investing an awful lot of money into their electric car program. Ionity in Europe, the charging network, and Electrify America in the States. Big advertising campaign saying sorry we lied, and just investing billions in going electric in a big way, so that's all great. And they've also rebranded a little bit just so you can forget they were such lying bastards. Every cloud has a silver lining though, and I think Dieselgate could be one of the best things that's happened to the industry after Tesla. So VW, with its well-made cars, experience, fantastic advertising, money and manufacturing prowess, will give the low to mid-end of the market a kick up the arse that Kia could have done if it could have just made enough cars. It's difficult to keep up with all the cars that they're planning because they've announced about 100, I think, in various press releases. But the first one is the ID3, which up until now actually has had me completely nonplussed. I haven't cared about it. So yes, I realise the importance of it, but they were showing it off in that mad camouflage all this time, the magenta and blue. And I thought, well, that looks kind of funky, but it'll be boring as hell once they take the camouflage off. But I'm quite happy to say I was wrong, because actually I really like the look of it. It turns out it's a pretty cool car, and with Volkswagen's economies of scale, it comes at a pretty good price too. So it's an impressive bunch of tech in a car designed to be an EV from the start. What makes this even cooler is it's got this augmented reality heads-up display, which I think is fantastic for a kind of a gadget geek like myself. So the ID, I think, is going to be the kind of car that every EV fan will just tell people to buy if they don't have Tesla money, that is. And my guess is that they'll get Car of the Year 2020. The e-Niro got it last year, but of course they couldn't make enough of them. Making Car of the Year pretty pointless in my opinion, but Volkswagen have big plans for this, and they'll at least be able to produce it in good enough numbers. The price ranges from 22,000 to 37,000, with the latter coming in September 2020, and with a massive 82 kilowatt hour battery and going 342 miles, which is pretty fantastic, and that's really good value. Bear in mind that the Leaf E Plus is 239 miles for about £36,000. So which would you rather have? Whether you would buy one or not probably comes down to whether the shape is good for you and whether or not you can forgive Volkswagen, because a lot of people can't. Built on Volkswagen's MEB platform is like a boilerplate phrase all motoring journalists are using now for a lot of these EVs, because so many of them are now built on Volkswagen's MEB platform. If you don't know what it is, it's like that. It's just a piece of... Okay, well, it's not a piece of Duplo, but it's just a battery pack with wheels. And then they can make it longer, they can make it wider, and they can stick any chassis on top of it to make a new car. So the brilliance of that is that it means that they've done an awful lot of research and development. Us, the consumers, benefit from having lots of manufacturers use that for themselves. It means we get more EVs, and that's got to be the end goal. That's the end of my list of the first 13 EVs coming in 2020. Stay tuned for the next 13 coming in the next video. Subscribe and press the bell icon to be notified when it arrives. Right, I've got to get back to editing.